Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special, what I'm calling a Boardvengers webisode, I guess if we could call it that. But I do want to start this off by saying Boardvengers assemble, because we have a fantastic team that we called upon. We have Ben and M from Date Night Dice. I should have.
We should be coming in as
right.
Just
Yeah.
Yo, what's up? It's Date Night Dice.
Is that what we say?
No,
Yeah.
we never said that
I
before.
know. Hi.
what's going on? So we have Ben and M from Date Night Dice.
Hi.
We have Dalton and Nelson from Fantasy and Some Flights.
Cheers.
How's it going? Cheers.
We have Dave from Game Foundry. We have Jason from D20 Woodworking. We have McKay, the BG Critic. And last but not least, Professor Meg. And we're here today. We're going to talk about our top board games of the year. And we're just going to really get right into these things. But actually, before we get into these things, let's just do a quick intros. Ben Nem, plug Date Night Dice. Do it. 30 seconds.
We have an Instagram where we play games and do Instagram stories and occasionally do posts, and
Occasionally. Woo.
it's kind of fun.
We do have a podcast. The podcast is honestly just us
Oh
talking
my
to
goodness,
our friend.
we do have a podcast, but all we do is sit around and talk
We
to our friends.
talk to our friend. That is literally all it is. But
It's a tangentially related to board
it's
games.
us having a drink with a friend from afar, essentially.
That's true. So, I mean, if you look at Date Night Dice on Instagram or on any podcast providing service, we even have a YouTube channel. It's got like one video on it. But yeah, if you're interested, go take a look, find us.
So is your friend, is that the date? Is that where the name Date Night Guys comes from?
When we pull him in, it's Date Night Thrice.
It's date, yeah.
Date Night Thrice. I like
Yeah.
it.
At that
Oh.
point.
Our friend Ken, he lived in town and he moved away, so now we kind of do remote. We used to do Thursday night board gaming with him, and now it's Thursday night video games. We did some Tabletopia. Now we've been playing Borderlands and some other stuff, but yeah, we still try to keep it going.
Awesome. Send regards to Ken.
Will do.
Or hello, Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I've heard so much about you, Ken. Nelson, please.
Yeah, so Dalton and I co-host a podcast called Fantasy and Some Flights. Basically, we're built on 4 pillars: beer, board games, books, and bourbon. So each episode we drink and then talk about either board games or fantasy novels.
Yep.
And then we post about it on Instagram sometimes.
Awesome. And as you begin your episodes, or your podcast episodes, you talk about your beverage. What are you drinking and how many cheers?
So I'll start. Yeah, I'm drinking Templeton Rye, which is something that Dalton, we did our episode 10 was all about Dalton trying to get me to like whiskey.
Yeah.
And so this was my favorite out of that. This is definitely a 4 cheers because I have to go to the store because I'm almost out. So
Yeah. And I'm having Willet. And I'm actually really excited to be able to show it because like it has a really cool
Oh, that's
bottle shape,
awesome.
and I would never get to talk about that on the
Oh.
podcast, right? And so I went to Kentucky over like Thanksgiving and I found it. And this is one that I had when I lived in Texas a lot, and I can't find distributed in Indiana. So this is absolutely a 4 cheers for me because it was a buy on site. Because I was like, yes, they have Willet. So it's a bourbon. I really like it.
Awesome. Jason, please.
Yes, I'm D20 Woodworking. I run the Instagram account and blog website. I make and sell different wood board game accessories, and my Instagram account is basically just all about solo board gaming. So when we get into our top game list, I will be representing solo board gaming.
Awesome. Dave.
Thanks, Roberto. Yeah. So I'm out of Southern California. I run a Etsy shop called Game Foundry. My background is in architecture. So even though I don't work directly in it anymore, I found it's a great creative outlet, and managed to marry my love for board games with my love for creation. And that's kind of given me the outlet when I found 3D printing to be able to come up with cool accessories and augmentations for games that I offer there. And then I have an Instagram, Game Foundry on Instagram, where I explore the intersection between gaming and 3D printing.
Awesome. McKay.
Hi, McKay Anderson. I run an Instagram account, the Board Game Critic. I worked professionally in board game design for 3 years at Hasbro. And after parting there, I was like, hey, I can do my own stuff. Hasbro doesn't own me anymore. So I decided to start an Instagram account just as kind of like let's just get some stuff going. Right now we're in the middle of a fun bracket comparing the best characters in board games. But yeah, I chose the name because I was like, I have a lot of ranting to do about board games, which hopefully we won't here. Turns out I like almost all board games, so I actually don't have as much criticizing as I would like, but I still like talking about them.
Thank you. And Meg.
I'm Professor Meg. I am just a board game player that I guess reviewer, talker, abouter on the internet places. I'm Professor Meg everywhere, mostly on Instagram. I'll be doing more YouTube stuff soon. I'm on Twitch sometimes, not really lately. I tweet when I have something weird to say. It's usually very weird stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty much Professor Meg everywhere, just being very colorful and lots of games.
Well, thank you, Professor. And I just when we talked, you have done so many different cool things with Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, and I think that deserves a little mentioning too. Like, you do a lot of different things, and I love it.
We
So
really
I
appreciate
brought
you
you
bringing up the color scale for us, because like all of us are in like dark muted tones.
I
you
know, right?
Yeah, right.
Hey, we got like a foot of snow today, so we got to keep it
Whoa.
vibrant
I'm
here.
so jealous.
We don't
I
even have
got
snow here.
so much snow.
Yeah,
So
we
much.
did get a
I don't know
lot.
what snow is. Sorry.
Here's hoping we have power through all of this. We
Yeah,
should.
for real. I'm crossing my fingers too. So I brought everyone here today, assembled you all, because when I started my own page, I really had no idea what I was doing, and I was able to have a conversation with every single one of you, and I really get a great sense of community, especially on Instagram. The board game community on Instagram is wonderful. I think it's the best one out of the two social media places that I have a board game community, if you will. So thank you for taking your time out of your evening to do this awesome collaboration. So, games of 2020, that's why we're here. We're going to discuss some our favorite games, maybe rip them a little bit to pieces, maybe some oohs, ahs. We'll see what happens. And because nobody wants to go first, I will share my game to
All right.
everyone. And I'm going to I got my
So
I
we're
got my
allowed to
stack
just
over here.
destroy your opinion, correct?
If you
Oh, yeah.
want to,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Everyone get ready.
Here's what I want to know,
How many
though.
I haven't played.
I shouldn't. I don't want to be mean, and then everyone's mean to me.
I
so.
want to. I'm throwing this in right now
What's happening?
before we get started. At the last moment, but I'm curious when you talk about games, who you play games with, and especially in 2020,
Oh, that's true.
because it's been really hard to play games with people.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when we talk
I'm
about our
sitting right
game,
here, but
like the game we picked is definitely about. It's a good two-player game because we haven't been able to play with anybody.
yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. Actually, a little good example of that is for us is Concordia. We played Concordia, and I wholeheartedly believe Concordia doesn't scale well at 2 players. At
Wow.
3-4 people, excellent.
Yeah.
But that's a potential another episode to
oh.
yeah, little teaser there.
Shut your mouth.
So I play with Kate and my son, and we absolutely love underwater cities.
That's a good one.
So this was a huge board game year for me. This game by Vladimir Sushi. I'm just going to read this by Delicious Games or Rio Grande Games, published by them. This game has it all. It has murder. It has lots of intellect needs to be used. The kind that I don't have right now because it's later in the evening. I'm just going to toss this board off to the side. But when this game is on the table, well, first and foremost, it's a table eater. If you get your resource trays and whatnot, the game it's massive. It's gorgeous. The artwork is absolutely incredible. It's 3 phases of play, and you're just building up a nice little engine, right? I mean, Dalton Nelson, you guys have played the game. I've seen it on your posts a couple of times. What do you think?
I love the game. like my favorite game is Terraforming Mars. I think it provides kind of the same feel, but it's just different enough because I've played a lot of Terraforming Mars. So it's nice to get the worker placement aspect as well as the hand management. And if you haven't tried the expansion, I think the expansion really makes this game shine.
It does. With it has recessed boards.
Yeah, that's the biggest part.
It's incredible having that. Although, side note, I really don't like when a game shines when you need an expansion for it. Like just make the game shine on its own. I have to spend more money. I mean, I'm going to spend it, obviously.
It's not a cheap expansion either.
No, it is not.
My sister has that same argument. She was like, if a game gets better when you add an expansion, that means you did something wrong in the first place, which I actually like vehemently disagree with that statement, actually. I'm like, I think board games especially are like a growing thing where you have like, which once we get to my pick, I'll explain a little bit more of this. But if you were to pile in every great thing from the beginning, it becomes extremely overwhelming. And that's like Dungeons and Dragons. Me, right? It's like, oh man, I have to know like histories and I have to know like manuals and all of this stuff. But what expansions do beautifully is like you can start like with an introduction into a game and then you can like add complexity and then you can choose like any of those steps throughout to introduce somebody into it and then just like keep getting more and more. I don't know. I love expansions, but I'm also like a collector and a completionist. So once I like start down that road, it's super dangerous.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have expansions on top of expansions. And if the core game itself is good and the expansions just help keep improving on the systems, then I'm all for it. But if it's an expansion to fix something that was broken in the game originally, then I'm against it. Because yes, you're right. You should have made it good the first time.
That's fair.
Yeah. Have any of you guys played that game or looking forward to playing that game?
I want to. I haven't yet.
I didn't know about it, but hearing it compared to Terraforming Mars sold it to me. Yes.
You're gonna write that down in your notes quick. That you're.
I think
I haven't played it.
Domes that sold it to me. When I saw those little plastic domes on it, I was like, gotta get that game.
I need to like look.
I think
I'll
Underwater
actually show you
City
guys.
is the
Here are these
most-
domes.
Yeah,
There you go. Yeah.
Cool components.
I love components.
I haven't played Underwater Cities, but I would. That's the game that has been recommended to me more than any other game.
Yeah.
I would say, especially
It's awesome.
because they're like,
awesome.
if you like Terraforming Mars, play Underwater Cities, or if you like it's
Okay.
Terraforming Mars is the one that comes up most often, but it's not the only thing I've heard of people saying you need to get this game, you need to try it. This is my favorite game, and you should play it.
And I've definitely seen it like on Instagram and everything, just from the pictures. But...
That's probably like very high on our next to get list.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
it's very. You're right. It's very photogenic, and it is like I think
Yeah.
just a slight step down, like weight wise, from Terraforming Mars. Like not a huge one, but like just a little bit down from it.
Well, that's what we
good
need when
for
it's
us then.
two. I mean, when it's two players, and like by the time we play is after kids. go
We'll
to bed.
talk about that later. When we talk about our game of
yeah.
the year.
Oh,
Has anyone played?
oh,
has,
oh no.
has anyone played the video game Subnautica? I love that. I love that game. It's sort of it's like a survival type game, but you're like crash landed on like an ocean type planet, and trying to like build a little like survival for yourself. And so anyway, so the game like the board game really reminds me of that like theme.
Yeah.
I might have to go back to that point of you talking about Terraforming Mars being a little heavier. I'm gonna say I disagree with that only because Terraforming Mars with the amount of cards you can have in your hand, it gets a bit overwhelming for me personally. This is so streamlined. You can only have 3 cards in your hand. Anymore, you have to discard 2, 3, and you have to choose from your 3. So you have that forward thinking with the cards in your hand. In that sense, you have three turns until the next. Or actually, how many is it? 5, 6? I should know this. But in between production phases, you have 5 rounds before the next stack of cards comes on. So there's some slight forward thinking as well as knowing that your cards are going to get more powerful. So you don't really want to stick the cards that you have. But going back to just having 3 cards, I love that.
Yeah.
It's
And
not like
the one other thing that I'll point out to you, Ben and M, is that I've played it with I think 2, 3, and 4, and 2 is by far my favorite.
Okay,
Oh,
that's
that's
what I was gonna
excellent.
ask.
Good.
I was like, what's better, 2 or 3? Okay.
Yeah, two
that's
in my
awesome.
opinion is better.
So the cards in the game, it's a growing. There's like a series of decks or something like that
Yeah.
that you're
Play out
playing
over
from.
3 ages.
Ah,
Oh, okay.
yes.
okay.
And they get
I
more
think
OP
like Seven
as you get
Wonders.
to the next ages too.
Mhm. Yeah, I think 7 Wonders or something like that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my choice. Underwater cities.
General
For my-
approval, I think. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good
Very
choice. Accepted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
negative.
no one was like, nope.
Yeah. It knocked out Architects of the West Kingdom for me. Like that game got a lot of play, but then we just recently put out Underwater Cities. And before I played Architects, we had Underwater Cities on the table a ton. And we just played Underwater Cities like 3 or 4 times in a row. It's so the replayability is so high. I love it. Love it.
This is bad. I'm
All
gonna go spend like
Choice.
money.
That's actually why we're doing this, like ways to more games to add to our shelves.
Yeah.
And actually, McKay, we're going to get to you if you
Cool.
want to
The big
show us
reason-
your game.
and
The
it is a
critically
big
accepted, correct
reveal.
game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw out my back lifting this.
Get this like
Um,
reveal.
Okay, so this one is a little bit. It's like there's 3 parts to it. One is just like albeit nostalgia probably. When I think back on 2020, I think this is the game that I'll just think of. Not that I think it's like the best game that I played this year necessarily. It is like solid, but Clank Legacy,
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh,
huge.
I can see that.
So there was like a big sale, and I think a lot of people picked it up on Penny Arcade when it was on sale. But we split the cost with another couple that lives nearby. He actually worked with me at Hasbro, and then we like somehow met up back here in Utah. And so we split the cost, and we said, all right, we'll play through this together. And this year has been particularly like heavy with legacy games, which is really ironic because it is 2020 and it's a little bit hard to get a consistent group together. But when we went into like lockdown, they lived close enough to us and they were just always over that they just kind of became part of the whole household group. So I'm a short gamer. Like I don't like a game if it goes much over an hour to an hour and a half. Clank Legacy usually goes around 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours by the time you read everything and all of that. And I seriously wanted to roll into another game immediately, which is saying a lot for me personally. So I had that. It just has everything I like. It's deck building, the characters and story. It fits really well. I don't know how much everybody knows about Acquisitions Incorporated, but you're building your own little franchise of the company. And it has that feeling. Like at first you're just kind of like this struggling company, and pretty soon you get like to a well-oiled machine amongst the group. I don't know. It probably isn't this experience for everybody, but it just expanded. All of the pieces just fit together into this beautiful symphony where I was like, oh my gosh, like the theme and the gameplay and all of it just clicked into this like sum of more than its parts. So that's my game of 2020.
have you played it since you finished it as a
I
regular
haven't.
Clank game?
So we're actually going to play right after this, I believe. Upstairs, they're over here right now. So once I'm done here, I think we're going to go play around, and I think we only have like 2 or 3 rounds left. From what I've heard and the research that I've done, is it turns into a very good version of Clank. But I also haven't played standard Clank or Clank in Space, so.
okay.
I need to, those are like, I was about to buy, I was this close to buying them, and somebody was like, don't buy it if you have Clank Legacy. They were like, it's just,
Yeah, no,
stop
don't.
playing. So
It's just like a simpler version if you buy the regular. You might as well have like your personalized board that's a little more like epic in the end.
my sister actually bought it at the same time too, and I'm actually really eager to get our 2 copies together and see how differently the game can like divert from each other, like having played, because we've destroyed a large number of cards that seem pretty important to the game.
That was the one game that we played with our friend Ken when he lived here, and we would always say you had to eat the card when you had to destroy it. So it was always, well, now you have to eat it. There's a timer, and so that was
2 types of legacy game players.
We're real serious over here when it comes to.
No, we certainly we didn't start Clank Legacy in 2020, but we finished it this year. I didn't even think about that. We started November of last year.
Okay, yeah.
And it took us a very long time to finish. And what
part of it was because of COVID and all that.
Well, no, but there was like the holidays and stuff, and we
That
got
too,
apart, and it was all kinds of different things. But But that's what I think is the reason why I kind of like this legacy game a lot more than others, is if you have to take a break, you can come right back to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because what gets added in over time, there isn't the pandemic legacy where there's a whole new system thrown on top that you're like, I don't exactly remember how this works. It's like, no, there's some new cards, there's some new place to go. Yeah, right. Oh, spoiler, sorry.
Don't play the game.
There's some new cards, there's some new places to go, but it's still like the same game. It just like grows.
Yeah.
It like gets bigger and bigger, and kind of like the deck has the story of what you've done in it.
Right,
I really liked that. I liked Clank Legacy a lot.
Like,
and the longer it's been since we played Clank Legacy, the more I liked that I played Clank Legacy.
The cool thing is, like, as the cards come back up, like, there's a helpful NPC that's in there from the beginning, and every time you buy that card, you get to add a like part of his descriptor.
Oh yeah.
So every time he comes up, everybody's just like, he's not even that good of a card, but it's like, I want Brad. Our helpful NPC is called Brad, and his special ability is he can like fart on command or something. But there's just like so much warmth to the game over time. Even like adding like a seal of excellence to certain cards and stuff. It's I don't know. There's just something. There's a lot of love baked into the game over time.
I want to go find our NPC card and see what was on it.
I
know its quote was, "Do I look flat to you?"
Played it. Have you all played it with other people, or has anyone played it solo? Because I'm curious how it might differ in the solo experience. What I'm hearing is a lot of the fun of it is the interaction and kind of the shared story.
I feel like it's honestly like inside jokes.
Yeah,
is what's fun. It's like you're hearing the story together, and then you're building which path you go. Like, I mean, we would always joke that Ben, of course, is going to go for the most insane treasure.
I'm gonna go to the bottom. I'm gonna get down there,
even though it's impossible to get to. So Ken and I are like, okay, have fun down there. And so, I feel like it's more of a group, even a small group, but a group game.
Oh, Ken. Where's Ken when you need him?
Ken. Call him up.
Poor Ken.
He's gonna be the next card we name. I'll name him Ken.
Poor Ken.
So that's not deck building. It's been in a lot of my shopping carts. Clank and some other deck Dominion has been in my shopping carts playing times. I just can't pull the trigger. I'll never say no to playing it if someone brings it to me, but I don't think I'll ever end up buying anything with a lot of cards like that.
I love regular Clank. I have regular Clank, but is Clank Legacy co-op?
No, well, it's weird. That's the weird thing about it, is there's cooperative elements. Because I was talking to my sister, I was like, hey, when you played, like, were you trying to kill each other? And she's like, oh yeah. Like, when somebody was like at the bottom of the board, somebody would always dart to the top and try and
So just like Clank.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, but there are some things where it's like if you accomplish, A, B, and C, then this happens. So you might have to kind of say, okay, you go over there and do this. But for the most part, I feel like it's kind of by yourself.
Our
feel like the same mechanic.
Pretty cooperative, actually. We'll like divide and conquer, and we'll actually have like the majority of the group like sit up there at the top next to your next to the end, where you gather at the end, and wait for everybody to get into the safe zone.
Oh, you guys are so sweet.
I know.
I feel like it was probably Ken and myself being like, Ben's at the bottom, let's skedaddle. Like, we need to get out of here.
I always win. You can finally have your revenge.
Yeah.
The game's baked in great ways to even deal with that. Like the white cubes that get put in that like just hurt everybody. I don't know. I think it's brilliantly designed, personally.
All right. So again, I think other than me, I think you guys all agree. Clank Legacy. Great game of 2020. Let's get on to this next game. And I'm pulling these from random order. Like, I have all these boxes.
This is like
it's a good way to do it, Zenny.
Oh my gosh.
I gotta say, Shem Phillips, I get it. I understand Shem Phillips and the games that he puts out. I did not like Raiders of the North Sea. Sorry, Shem, if you're gonna watch this, probably not. But of the West Kingdom games,
never know.
Knocked out of the park. Paladins, Architects, and Viscounts. And please, Dave.
Yep.
This was Dave's pick.
That was my pick. So this one, when I first kind of delved into it, like, there's a lot of moving parts in this game. And it seems at first really disparate. So the feeling I kind of had is like, you watch those cooking shows where like they give you this, this domed platter and they pull the top off, and there's a side of ham, there's a Twinkie, there's a pack of Mentos, and like a half-drank can of Coke, and you've got to make something out of it. And that's like what this game is. It's got so many disparate mechanics. It's got, deck building, set collection. It's got this rondelle mechanism where you kind of do an action selection. It's point salad. It's all these kind of really things that you wouldn't necessarily. Oh yeah, it's got the area control in the middle, right? All that kind of stuff, but it all comes together so well, and it's just so engaging. And every turn, you're thinking several moves ahead, like how is this going to build to what I'm trying to do? And you kind of you generally have a couple of different objectives that you're trying to do to kind of maximize and specialize in, and where you crescendo in one and then kind of start to build on the other. Because like once you get all your guys out in the middle, you can't really do much more there. So you have to be kind of, have enough kind of built into your deck that because you're deck building and you place these guys out in a tableau and they kind of move along. They give you like actions for 3 rounds and then they fall off, and they might give you a bonus when they fall off. But your deck and when you play these guys and how you manage your deck is really key. And there's just so much kind of planning that goes into it, and how you pull that off and how you kind of finish the game as it starts to kind of accelerate towards that end condition. It's just been really kind of meaty and rewarding, and I've really enjoyed the heck out of the game.
How is it for you for solo play? Unless you played it with
the pandemic, it's all I've done for it. So the cool thing about it is
that review is from solo. Then sweet.
Yeah, that was so it's got 4 different AI boards. So there's the 4-player boards, and each one has there's 3 specialists and then one that's kind of like a generalist. And so each one is kind of going towards different objectives and has kind of a different specialty that you might be racing against it with. And, they seem really balanced. I haven't found that one's like significantly easier than the other, but it's a great solo experience. All of the kind of Shembot, games in the West Kingdom series have been really pretty well balanced and pretty, challenging.
That Shem, I had to message Shem because going back into his board game biography, is that what it would be called? Yeah, like a discography but for board games. Did I just make that word up?
Yeah.
That works.
He has a game, I think from 2007 or something like that. That's pretty much the exact same style. Like it has the roundabout and the pieces that go around it. And I was like, hey Shem, is this like a knockoff of this game? And he was like, no, I assure you, I actually want to play that game just to make sure that it's not the same game. But it's not like a remodeled version. But he said no, and of course I'm going to trust him because honestly, in Shem I trust with this stuff. The game, Dave, great pick for this year. Yeah. We did play this several times. The first though, your player token is like you're on a horse and you're carrying a flag. It's pretty meaty. It's a nice beefy token. You're just like moving it around the board in clockwise fashion. Have any of you guys played any other of the West Kingdom games?
I played Architects. And I love worker placement. I mean, that's one of my favorite mechanics, along with deck building and bag building. But yeah, I enjoy it. But this, in terms of the mental energy you put into the game and kind of the advanced planning, this one is a whole different level. It's not unmanageable, but it takes a couple of plays to really get the rhythm of it.
Have you done Paladins solo?
So not yet. I got it along because when I ordered the Viscounts Kickstarter, I ordered Paladins at the same time, so I haven't pulled it open to do it. But that's next on the list for sure.
It's good.
Nice.
You'll enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah. Paladins is a nice table leader. The board, it's like this giant rectangle that's cut in half.
And there's 2 of them, so can really stretch across.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to it.
So wait, have you only played this just solo or?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good review for solo, I feel like.
If we're not doing it on like Board Game Arena, we're not. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's my fear with, I don't know a ton about this game. I haven't read through the rules or anything, but I think that is my fear with games like this, as aggressive games tend to need like a specific group where everyone's willing to be aggressive or not, like, or everybody's willing to not be, I guess. If you get like a couple people that are just like really aggressive at a game, it just ruins it. And so do you feel like with multiple people, is this the game that would get aggressive? Because that was kind of the take that
I mean, there's competition for like the area control element, especially, right? And some of the other things you might be racing for. There's, you know, the spots you put your buildings, and there's the different manuscript tokens you might be taking. I don't feel like it's a game where that player interaction is going to be too like acrimonious. Like, you know, I ended up not liking Rising Sun because there was a, you know, the way that some of the negotiation aspects and you know, it was a little bit more too much take that, you know, and I take that as like one of my least favorite kind of mechanisms. Yeah, right. Where you're almost king making at some point, right?
Yeah.
But definitely this one, I mean, the only fear I would have with playing with other groups is I would want to play in a group where you don't have people prone to analysis paralysis, because you could definitely just get completely mired in like, oh, I could do so much, and like you need to math it all out, and like 15 minutes later, like, you know, come on, like, buddy, it's your turn. You know?
Dave, don't let Kate hear you, because she will agree that I am the king of that, especially with that game. Because it's been 15 minutes. Come on, I want to go to bed. Like, but it's only turn 2.
I'm curious what you think about this, because I've heard this game described two ways. It's a rondel resource management game with some deck building, or it's a deck building game with rondel and resource management on the sides. Like, which one of those two is the more majority? Like, I haven't played it. It's like you build in villagers or something into your hand.
So I would say that the beauty of this game is it can be either of those. So it depends on how you plan your strategy. You could really utilize that deck building aspect to get the most efficient deck you have. You could get it down to the minimum number and just be playing the same guys. Or you could be like managing the deck and not really caring about what's in it, because you put your buildings out and you have a lot of ability to manipulate your deck and cycle through cards. And so like where you're going on the board maybe is more important than how you're maximizing the benefit you're getting from these cards you're playing and the interaction between them. So I think, you know, that's the beauty of the design, is there's a lot of different pathways that you can take and kind of specialize within the game. And I found each play I've done, the strategy's been very different.
Cool. That sounds good. I want to play that.
Yeah, and I can say that it plays well at 2 players. It does scale well. Yeah. So unless I get yelled at, of course, then there's other games we can play.
It's too slow.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that.
Big.
So highly agree with that as a game of the year, because again, in Shem I trust. I love his games. Let's move on to something else here, and it's going to be the top one. Let's do.
Ooh,
Cosmos Games. They make the exit games, and I think Kate and we've played 9 of them. And honestly, I recommend every single one of them. They're so fun. The puzzles are challenging. But today we're not going to talk about the exit games, because you couldn't play those one and done. So right now we're going to look at the Crew, the Quest for Planet 9. Excellent.
I have loved
Dalton,
the Crew
please.
this year. I've absolutely loved the Crew this year. So Nelson showed it to me. I played first on Nelson's copy, and I bought it like pretty much immediately, like the next time I saw it. You know, I think this game has I don't want to say this, like more like man hours played per cost than any other game I own. You know, like there's hours and hours and hours of entertainment for like a $20 game. It's such an incredible value. My family loves trick taking games anyway, so this was like a very natural fit of like, because on the Venn diagram there's a very thin window of like things I can play with Nelson and things that I can play with my family. It's a very very thin slice, and the crew like falls into that. My girlfriend also loves it, and she doesn't play like a ton of games, and so this was a really great great one to intro into as like, because it's cooperative and it has like some familiar elements. I love space. I love NASA. So like obviously the theme is like a huge hit for me. And yeah, I don't know. I think this is one that every time I talk to someone who's like big into the board game community, a lot of times they're like, "Oh, have you played the Crew yet?" Right? That was like a big question this year. And yeah, everyone's loved it, and so it was that way for me as well. I am jealous of Nelson. Recently finished the 50th mission with his wife and his sister-in-law. So he's actually finished it. I'm like in like the 20s somewhere. It's like the highest I've gotten.
They get crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I think we only got to like, I mean, like 10 or under, like at when we did play. So I can't even imagine what it gets to be.
How long does I haven't played it yet. How long does a round take? Or I guess a game.
Once you get up and running, it'll be like, I don't know, 10 minutes, something like that, maybe 15.
Okay.
It's definitely a game that like kind of speeds up though, because it's a trick taking game, and so everyone is going to be like, oh, okay, like 8 yellow, okay, I do this, and you're just kind of like, you get to a point where you're just kind of grooving, sort of like the Mind or something like that. Like when you play a decent bit with the same group, then you're going to have like tells, you're going to have strategies that are going to be like consistent, and it'll speed up quite a bit.
So
you never play one round at a time though.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be
you never play one like, let's play something else. It's more like, guys, we have to stop.
I think this is a really great pick for one big reason. I heard that there was communication limitations, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna like it. I hate it. Like I've never seen a game do communication limitation as well as the Crew. Hanabi was fun, but you always felt like you cheated. And by the end of the game, I was like, man, but there was that one time that somebody shot like a shifty glance. And then it was just like, oh, thanks. Now we can say we won with integrity. But the Crew is just like, not only are they like fast, digestible rounds, but the communication was like, they handled it flawlessly with a limited amount that you can do. You felt like you could do your communication, but then there wasn't like the motivation to just be like, shooting like I don't know, odd glances across the table to try and get them to do what you wanted.
I would totally do that.
Come on.
We were the
You're
one
just
time,
like going like this, like
right.
The one time though, I think we were playing with your dad, who does not play board games at all, and he was like, he was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do another round. And he kept doing it, which proved like he even got up and left. And then came back. Which I feel like is the biggest, like, you should try this game, because he does not play any board games like whatsoever at all. And he even came back. But there was a couple times I feel like when we were playing with him where you were like, okay, it's your turn. And you're like, give me little like,
play that card.
But I mean, it was really fun though.
Well, I mean, I had to step off for a second because I didn't fill my cup up enough when we started.
Little something.
Like when you play a trick taking game and you play enough rounds of it and you start to feel clever and you're like, I know how to play this hand of cards. This game is like, could we all get that clever together? It's like this extra twist on, okay, everybody feels smart when they're playing trick taking games. Oh, well, now let's try to handle challenges as a team at the table. And it's like, okay, maybe we're not as smart as we thought we were. Like, this is hard.
Yeah.
Well,
That's and the pacing of it's really good too. We're like, because the first couple missions are pretty boring, right? They're basically just like an introduction to the rules. Right. But then I forget one of them, like the first time that it's like, okay, like this person can't win a trick or something like that. Like it shifts it from like the normal, like I'm going to give you a number and you have to figure it out, and like does something that's kind of twisted, and you're like, oh, like now this is kind of like a different gear, and you can see everyone at the table kind of engage into it at the same time. It's really cool how it pulls that off.
Yeah, the way it ramps is really fantastic. From one game to the next. The nice thing about it is this one's got a really nice implementation on Board Game Arena. So, you can actually play it with folks that, without physically being together, and it still works perfectly. And the nice thing too is you can get up to like mission 7 or 8 in one play. And then if the same group logs back in, it picks up right where you left off. So you keep building.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
Campaign. And it's, to pull off cooperative trick taking with the kind of difficulty ramp it does, it's a genius game. It's really great.
For sure.
You guys have convinced me to play this tomorrow. That's what I'm gonna do.
I'm surprised
we've got the snow. We've got the snow. It's gonna happen.
You can pick it
happen.
up for like $10, which is also like, it's so good to see games that have good meat at a lower price point, because
aren't like $50.
And like it's easy to build it, like overbuild a game to $50. Like if you have that much money to pour into it, sure, it's easy to do a game with meat. But like the simplicity of components with the depth of strategy and like the gameplay it provides, it's so good to see games like that making it into the market.
Yeah, this game's a stocking stuffer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you can because of the varying rule sets, you can tailor the game session to who you're playing with. You know, if you're just playing with family, you can play one of the lower missions. If you're playing with a group, you know, that's really kind of into heavy games, you can, you know, jump ahead. It's, you know, it's really flexible.
Right. Sounds like the Crew that's the game of the year.
My list.
I've never played it with someone who didn't like it.
That's all thumbs right there. Excellent.
Great choice.
Our next game that we're going to discuss was recommended to me by someone, and this is going to be horrible, but do 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 do.
I was like, what's happening?
There's some IP there.
The video's just gonna be
I gotta
muted for
add
like 20 seconds.
You're gonna get this video taken down immediately. Dude. Copyright.
I have to throw like the Vanilla Ice, the like you ripped off Queen. No, I did the dun dun dun.
Ever since we put a music bot in our Discord, we can't stream our video games
you
anymore.
need to stop doing that.
Dinosaur Island by Pandasaurus Games was Professor Meg. Please lead the way.
Yeah. I have it right behind me. I'm not going to pull her down, but I also dressed for the part that you can't tell, but it's
man.
Nice.
Extra mile. Well done.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was waiting because I didn't want to like show my shirt too soon. So for me, it was definitely Dinosaur Island. I played it for the first time this year. The ones that kicked out for me that I also played this year was Terraforming Mars and Jaws of the Lion, but I've already played Gloomhaven, so like it's fine. But for Dinosaur Island, it has everything that I love about board games because there's so much in it. There's worker placement, there's resource management, there's multiple phases, there's a lot going on, and I love it. It's everything that I like about board games, and it's like it takes me back to those teenage years when I would be like on AIM, but like also on the phone and also watching TV, but also have my Game Boy going and like you could be doing everything.
Bringing back memories.
And like not only that, but like you get an Allosaurus when you get to do it. So for me, I love it. I love getting the specialists and getting extra meeples, getting extra worker placement, getting extra money. I just love micromanaging everything about it. And I played it probably the most this year out of all my new games.
That would have been my game, my pick, but you picked it.
I picked it right away. I was like,
respect.
Dinosaur Island.
She was like, yeah, it's Dinosaur Island. I was like, damn, because that one has a lot of tabletop.
So fun.
It's so streamlined too, because
great player boards. You have 2 player boards. There's 4 phases, and for 2 of the phases, you have your own player boards. And one of them, you even have drop-ins where you can put like the little resin, like I don't know, little thingies.
The recess board.
It's great. All of the components are great. You're spoiled. And I went from that and then to Terraforming Mars, and it was not as fun.
Oh,
Mars lacks in its heart,
but it was more different kind of brain power, so still fun.
No, okay. Were you like a Jurassic Park fan though? And so this just kind of like ups the fun because of that?
So honestly, I would
or
say
it's just fun either way.
Yes, that I love the art. I do love the art. And I would say if it was bad art, it might make me not like it. But you could have this be about like building a world of fairies, and each type of fairy gets you a different type of potion. And if it was cute, I would be like, I still want to manage it.
Yeah.
So I guess that if it was really ugly, it would tear me away, but that's it.
You have the most colorful box so far.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
they have the Kickstarter for Dinosaur. Oh, whoops. Dinosaur World too. So that's coming out soon.
Yeah,
it does play well with 2 people.
I mostly play two people too.
Yeah, the thing about Dinosaur Island is just how well it merges those mechanics with the theme. You know, you really just feel like it's going for Jurassic Park, and it just really nails that whole kind of arc, right?
And it kind of gives you that same
fun.
stress of like, oh, I have this, but I can't make it without that, but I don't have enough money. And if people aren't coming, I can't get more dinosaurs. And it's true. That's the problems they would have.
Right. And you got the little hooligans that, go get in for free and they cheat you, and, they avoid the dinosaurs because they're shifty. It's just the cool little features like that.
This is definitely the game where I backed the Kickstarter, and then I was like, it's kind of expensive, and then I canceled my pledge. And then my friend had it, the Kickstarter version, and we played it, and then I immediately bought it after I played his Kickstarter version. I was like, this is fantastic.
Right.
So I went and bought like a retail copy. I don't have the super
We don't have the
heavy
nice. I like the coins in the
the coins that
Kickstarter.
are 20 pounds, but
The slap bracelet, the first player, the fast pass.
Oh man.
Got the
So
rest
Yeah,
of
I
it.
just have the normie version too.
Yeah.
But that's why I backed Dinosaur World.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
We got to get ground floor on all the Kickstarters.
Well, not to talk
too
about
many.
Ken too much, but he went and bought at the,
It's true though. I mean,
did.
he was our third player.
He bought that like big pack of kids little dinosaur minis.
Yeah, we
and
played with
figures, like the
those.
little plastic painted
Yeah.
figures, and we played with those.
We should actually talk about how hard it is to find a third player. Like, it's tough, especially
It is.
It's true.
when you have kids. Like, you need that
Oh,
third
yeah.
person who doesn't have kids or whatever.
Now he's
that-
gone. I have to
play.
recruit somebody else.
No, he's gone.
No, but
Rest
I
in
saw
peace,
Dave
Ken.
totally holding it up. I've thought to do that too, and I haven't done it yet. Have you played with the Dino Meeples in Dinosaur Island?
No.
Yeah.
Tiny Epic
I was
Dino
actually
Meeples?
holding up Tiny Epic dinosaurs, because you're saying, have I used the mini?
Yeah, yoink those out, throw them in Dinosaur Island. It's so
She's
much
like,
cuter.
do it now.
Already
No.
got the dinosaurs, but it seems like it actually would fit a little better because it gets a little crowded with Dinosaur Island meeples. So that is kind of a cool idea.
I thought that's what you were saying when you held it up, because I
No, I
played
was
that also for the
curious,
first
and
time, and I
know
love
Roberto
it.
Played both, so I was curious how he thinks they compare in terms of two very similarly themed games, but kind of implemented differently.
That's I don't like Tiny Epic Dinos. It's
Yeah.
Oh, the first hot take.
First, yeah.
There we go. Let's get into it.
hot.
Here we
hot
go.
take.
Start the fight.
I was excited to buy it. I love dinosaurs, so we bought it, we played it, and for me it was just boring. I'd much rather play Tiny Epic Galaxies or Tiny Epic Western. I think there's just a little bit more going on that you're thinking about, like shifting over your fences and having them breed and all this and that to get VP to, well, having the dinosaurs, having them breed, and then trading them in to get your contracts and stuff like. Again, it was just boring for me. I played it with my son. He was like, "This game's ridiculous. What the things that I need to do in this game." So
It's
we
not
would
as-
much rather play Dinosaur Island.
Yeah.
But I think Tiny Epic they have better
Tiny Epic
games.
Defenders was very fun.
Yeah.
Is that the one with the mechs?
Defenders is one where it's like there's like 6 areas and things are just lighting on fire the whole time, and all you're doing is putting out the fire and then maybe fighting other things, but mostly only putting out fires.
Yeah.
And it was really pretty and really
Just going
fun.
out.
Yeah.
I did like that one better than Tiny Epic Dinosaurs, but I did like Tiny Epic Dinosaurs.
Okay. Yeah, we decided we brought it to a brewery. We're like, oh, let's crack this open. We're gonna learn it, and then it just kind of fell flat for us.
Yeah. Plus,
We just
you
really love Western.
tables to play it because it's like got a huge footprint.
Yeah.
Put it all out. Yeah.
So that is my hot take. But Dinosaur Island, absolutely great pick for this year, and thank you for recommending that game to me.
Yeah,
Meg.
absolutely.
Great game. Again, the artwork is incredible. You got like a little knockoff Professor H on the top there. Not gonna say his full name in case that gets taken down on YouTube or whatever.
And hopefully maybe next year Dinosaur World.
I
Hopefully
mean,
it'll be
this,
just as good.
to sound very young, this game slaps. So I'm sure the next version is gonna slap even harder. Okay. So we have our next game. I'm going to have Jason introduce the next game because it is his choice. Which is...
So my game is, I'm interested if anyone's ever played this, and if not, I'll trash the game myself. That's fine. But my game of the year, and I don't have the box anymore because I got rid of it for storage reasons, but is Too Many Bones by Chip Theory Games. Too Many Bones is, what do they call it? A RPG dice building game, and it's got insane components of dice on top of dice. Everything is these heavy, thick chips for component wise. Each character is unique and has a different set of chips that they, or dice that they build out for. So basically with this game, you pick a character. Each character, I think there's 14 of them now, is super unique. It's different, and they have different ways you can build this character. So for example, this one, you can work on training a pet wolf, and that wolf can go and attack things for you, or you can go, just do straight up attack, or you could heal people or whatever. The game, the company is famous for just kind of overproducing completely everything, which is probably the biggest knock on it, because everything, I mean, it's neoprene mats on top of neoprene mats on top of more.
Wow.
I mean, it's insane, and it gets expensive. I'm not gonna lie, it gets very expensive. So, but the thing is with the game that makes it amazing for me is I just love, for lack of a better word, asymmetry in games. And I think this game really nails it. There is not one of those 14 characters that feels anything like another one. There are, at the end of the game, there's like 16, I think, bosses you can fight, and not a single one feels like another one that you fight. And then now they have a whole expansion where you can just build your own final boss through a whole series of whatever. And so there's no limit now. I mean, it's just, you can fight endlessly, different tyrants, they call them at the end. So it's a super unique game. I've never played anything like it. It is, in my opinion, built for 1 or 2 players. The biggest knock on it is probably if you did it for 3 or 4, it's probably not going to be as good. I think you're a little too overpowered, and you're just going to cruise through the game. And as a pure solo game or a game you want to 2-hand or play with 2 players, it's fantastic. I love it. So that is my game. I thought, honestly, I bought this last year, but 2020 was, 5 years long. So it turns out I got it earlier this year.
Oh boy.
Didn't realize it.
Right?
So when you play, do you 2-hand it? Do you typically play 2 characters or just 1?
I do both. So they have, basically the adventure is done through a deck of cards. So you shuffle this deck of cards, and they have one that's specifically made for pure solo. So it's only if you're playing 1 character at a time, and it's built that way to not make it too difficult. Then if I 2-hand it, you use a different deck, which is if there was 2, 3, or 4 players, you would use that deck. So I've done both. I've done it 3-handed, which gets a little out of control and takes me a little long time. And that's when I did it 4 once just to see how well it plays 4. And like I said, it's too easy of a game at that point. And there's ways you can increase the difficulty by yourself and figure out ways, but it's definitely harder at the lower levels and more interesting.
I mean,
Out of curiosity.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, I definitely agree. Like 3, 4 players.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I have played this game a couple of times, and it'd probably be better at 1 or 2, I think. And not that it gets too easy, because I think when you actually have 4 different minds controlling the 4 characters, your own character's so complicated that you have no idea what the other people even do. So you're never doing anything that complements other people's actions. It's a bit like in Gloomhaven, they say if you play double-handed or something like that, you should increase the difficulty because you have an advantage. Really and this game's the same way. Is like I can barely keep track of what my guy does. I build some turrets or have some bots that run around. I have all these dice. I don't even know what yours do. And I can't read the chips because they're so small on a big table. But like with 1 or 2 people, man, I could see how you could really get into it, like building the character up and upgrading and moving along that little map and then fighting the bosses.
That's with this game.
The comfort pat. There, honey.
The other thing with this game is I do think it's a game where you need to dedicate, a lot of gameplays to it, because I know all the characters inside and out. I know exactly how they work and whatnot. And I mean, I have 80, 90 playthroughs of this game, but if you just pick this game out like once a month, I don't think you're going to have a good time, because like you said, you're going to be like, I don't really remember what the rules are because they're really kind of convoluted sometimes. There's a lot of weird situations. You know, all the bad guys have different rules for every single one. So it can become overwhelming and complicated. But yeah, especially if you only pick it up now and again. So.
But I do think, like you said, it's sort of component quality is almost a knock against it because it's very expensive. But I kind of like that it's like a luxury experience, right? Everybody's player boards are neoprene with cutouts for the dice. And the monsters are all poker chips that are like, yeah, there we go. Just like that. You put your dice in those little holes. I mean, it is top of the top of the top for component quality.
So I just have to cut out holes in your...
But you probably pay for it. I was playing somebody else's copy, so I don't know.
You're not having
You're just being treated.
Yeah.
and
he's being hosted and sponsored, yes.
That's right, yeah.
And that is one of the knocks, is that it is expensive. I mean, it's an expensive game. And like you got everything from the series. I mean, we're talking about like $400 or $500. I mean, and that's not, and they have a storage system, which makes it better in my opinion. That's another $100 and some dollars. Which if you get into it, you should get. But
was that all over time? Like, what did the core game come with?
The core game came with 4 of these characters and I think 6 main tyrant bad guys. And then yes, over time, that was 2017. So then over the next 3 years, they had like a handful of expansions, a bunch of character expansions, different things.
So is like just the core game worth it, or it's not worth it unless
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's they have the instruction booklet I held up was called Undertow, and it's basically a 2-player standalone expansion. And if you're going to start somewhere, start there, because it's only meant for 2 players at most. It's cheaper. But I mean, that's what I got first, because I was like, I don't know if I really want to drop this kind of money on this and whatnot. So I started there and I was blown away, and I paid for everything else.
I'm like McKay though. I know I'm a completionist, so I know like if I get my foot, I'm all in, right?
Slippery slope.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I think this is the first one that I'm like, I think I would hate that game.
He's got his arms crossed.
There we go.
His
Yeah,
shoulders.
he's like, here it is.
I know he's ready to blow up.
I know my type of game, and I just think I would hate it. I also don't like dice. Dice they hate me, and it's not like.
Oh my God, that's totally me though.
Yeah.
Ben is like surprised at how bad I am at rolling dice.
Come on. Can we please play like Warcry or something?
They're always like, let's just do this game. And I'm like, but it has dice. And it is the worst score you've ever seen, or it's something where it's like, you must be cheating. There's no in between.
And it's like our initials are opposite, where you're EM and I'm Meg. Yeah. And I roll like crits every time. The highest you can go. Give me a dice game.
But Jason, in Too Many Bones, is there a way to kind of mitigate your dice rolls so you can?
Yeah. So even if you roll poorly or like a miss, you can put it towards this what's known as a backup plan, and then you can execute that backup plan to do something beneficial. So they have a mitigation effect that even if you ran awful the entire time, you could still do okay. You won't do great, but you could probably still do okay in the game. That is one of the better features of the game. So.
Yeah, to me that's critical in a good dice game. Like Champions of Midgard, it was a good game, but we had too many games where people would roll poorly, and it was like I just can't roll a hit to save my life. And then Valhalla came out, and like oh good, I've got guys dying because now I can use them for this other thing that's great, right? So yeah, when games, I love dice, but I need to have something where you can manipulate it and get something good out of it and kind of, work it.
Yeah. For me, that was like Eldritch Horror versus like Arkham Horror LCG. That same way.
I will say, like, I have mad respect for asynchronous play and balancing of different characters. It's a hard thing to do in games. And a game that if you feel like you did it successfully, I'm like, I still don't think I would like the game, but mad respect for 14 characters that you feel like are distinct and well balanced. That is a feat.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll say about the game is I've gotten picky with board game publishers with customer service, because I've had some bad situations with customer service. And when I pay for a premium product, like if something is slightly off, I want them to fix it and make it better. And I will give them credit. They fix everything. I've had the stupidest, minorest complaints ever. And they've sent me brand new components with no questions asked. They just do it. So it's one of those weird things too, that like, even if you're paying for this expensive product, I had dice that were they were just slightly off, or they didn't look as perfect as I wanted them. I said, hey, will you fix this? And I said, absolutely. You know, and it's one of those things
cool.
that if I'm going to pay a lot of money for a company to, you know, make this game, especially in the world of Kickstarters now, where we pay so much money for these premium products, and I've had certain companies that don't stand behind their product. So I'm always a fan of a publisher that will do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely think this is the kind of game where it is expensive, but it like you said, it's a thing where if you're going to play with a group of people, let's say a group of 2 or 3, we're going to play this for a while, like a legacy game, because on game night number 1, I have no idea how your character works. Everybody gets a sheet. It's a big double-sided thing that says, here's the rules for your character. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
and they're completely different.
And back.
Holy
They
cow.
are completely
Love
different
it.
from the other characters.
oh man.
So you're like, I can't help you. I have no idea how
yeah,
yours
it's not
works.
a one-time play.
You
by
know,
any
it's the kind of
means.
thing where you learn a character and you play it for a while.
Yeah.
Those mats that you drop the dice into alone look gorgeous.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's definitely like I said, over the top game, and it's nuts. And what you were
Like,
saying with
you
this,
think you play board games?
yeah, right.
No, you
He's fanning
don't.
himself with his mats. He's like, yes.
Like, this is cute, but
Right.
No, that neoprene.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know.
And then
I'm
the
like,
other-
I liked the crew guys. You know, that was nice. It's a deck of cards.
And I don't know about anyone else, but like I'm a sleever, so I sleeve all my cards. Like I'm just addicted to it. Well, with this game, they're all plastic, so you don't need to sleeve any cards.
Well,
so
that's really
I take
cool.
that as I'm saving money, right?
Oh, yeah.
yes, yes,
Whatever,
$500
whatever you have to
later.
tell
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. I have
Is this the
justified that a
company-
long time.
Can you dump the entire game in the tub? Is
Yeah,
this that game? This is.
Not the box and not the rule book, but yes, you could play this in the tub if you
I've
want.
heard of this.
What?
I've heard of
Cards-
this now.
okay.
That, like their
Cards are
quality, they wanted it so
plastic,
high
yeah.
that you could
That's
throw it
great.
all under water, or it could get water damage.
Wow.
Yeah, people have spilt water
Party at
on it.
Jason's.
It's like right up
Yeah.
our alley. We're in like flood city, so we should.
You're gonna be on the rooftop playing Too Many
Okay,
Bones.
Yeah,
I just
right.
heard it. You heard it
No,
here.
Like
no,
Google,
no, no,
what
no,
can you
no,
play?
I
in
get
the
to
tub?
spend $500 on too many.
Yeah.
Basement has what flooded 3 times?
We
2,
can put it
3?
on the bottom shelf. This one.
Yeah, we do have the lower games on the bottom shelf in case it floods. Because every spring there is a moment where you're like, well, if it floods, I guess that game goes. I mean,
Awesome. So it looks like Too Many Bones is, I mean, at least one of us will end up buying it before this call is done. So I just wanted to move on to a planet where there is no water, and Matt Damon went there in a movie called The Martian. Back to high quality. Eagle Griffin Games has top tier product, and we have On Mars. Now I have to buy Ian O'Toole. Ian O'Toole, awesome artist. He's done. He just redid Rococo, and there's some other things that don't come to my mind. But Ian O'Toole, wonderful illustrator. This was Nelson's pick for his game of the year. I put it to our table one time. It took us about 45 minutes to set up on the table. And then I had to go. And I was like, well, I guess there's always next time. And then spoiler it, that's not been a next time. But please, Nelson.
Yeah, so On Mars is a 2020 release designed by Vital Lacerda, as you said, illustrated by the amazing Ian O'Toole. And the other games that you were thinking about is anything else designed by Vital Lacerda. They pretty much tag team anything nowadays, which is pretty awesome.
Lisboa. Lisboa's another one, I believe. Yeah.
He did Kanban, he did the Gallerist, Rococo, and then he did the New Age of Steam Deluxe Edition.
Yes.
Then
He did Nemo's War too.
yeah,
Ian
just
O'Toole,
anything that looks good. Probably has
Yeah.
Ian O'Toole's name
It's
on
Ian
it, let's
O'Toole.
be fair. But yeah, so on Mars is a very heavy game. It's definitely the heaviest game in my collection. If you're going by the BGG weight system, it's like a 4.61 out of 5. And it takes about 45 minutes to set up and about 4 hours to play. If you don't know, if you're working through the rules. We've gotten it down to about 3, but that's just because there's so much going on. There's so much interaction that there's just a lot to kind of take in. The board's divided up into 2 spaces, so you can be orbiting Mars or you can be on Mars, and then the worker placement mechanisms are different where you are, and then so you have to plan turns in advance. And as the game gets progressively longer, you get less opportunity to switch to different sides of the board. So there's a lot of planning, a lot of logistics in the game, and it just like my cousin described actually Concordia in this way, and I feel the same way on Mars. It just kind of feels like you're ice skating. Like Lacerda is really good because like anything you do will get you something, but it may not be optimized. But it's really nice because on Mars, just every mechanic in it just clicks for me. I love trying to manipulate the placement of the buildings versus trying to figure out, when to make certain decisions. It's definitely heavy, but I love it. It's definitely my game of the year.
Explain how you can get caught on Mars versus the spaceship.
Yeah, so the mechanism is there's a spaceship that's making trips to and from Mars, and you can hitch a ride on the spaceship to go to Mars, or if you're on Mars, to go from Mars back to orbit, where you can get more resources to then build up Mars. And the problem is once you start building, it has a cooperative element where you're trying to build you build up your colony on Mars, and once it gets better, the spaceship doesn't have to come as often, and therefore if you don't get on the ship to go back to orbit, you're waiting 4-6 turns before you can actually get back. And there are mechanisms that you can forfeit your entire turn to get to Mars, or you can sacrifice victory points to get to get back to orbit by using private rocket ships. But it just works really well. We like to do we break games up into mechanics, experience, and components, and we rate them on those 3 categories. And this is a 9.5 out of 10 for mechanics for me. There's only one game that's a 10, and that's Gaia Project for me. But on Mars is just right there, and I think you just have to know every card in the game to really make it shine. And I think once you get there, that's top tier components or mechanics for me.
I'm so glad you said Gaia Project. let me tell you a little bit of a story here. So I borrowed On Mars from my friend because I had heard fantastic things about On Mars. And I want to play Vital Lacerda games. Every time I try to play Vital Lacerda games, we don't even finish them. I can see Lisboa right there. I set up Lisboa. I taught Lisboa. And then I got the dirtiest look in the world from my wife that said,
you know what? I have 3 kids that I have to watch all day.
Here's the best story. So we played Terra Mystica a lot. And for a long time, that was oh man, I love Terra Mystica. Played a ton. I make all kinds of people play it that don't like heavy games, and they hated it. It was wonderful. So I bought Gaia Project because the way the board sets up, it's better at 2. Maybe you can actually play Gaia Project at 2, I thought. And I set Gaia Project up and taught Emily, and she said, "Why in the world did you buy this?"
There's not even dice.
So when I read the On Mars rulebook, I said, "I've learned my lesson."
You brought it
and
home
I brought
for a
it.
while.
I brought it back to my friend.
Set it in rooms so it I could see it. Set it around man, someday, and point it every now and then. And I just kept being real tired tonight and stuff.
Your love for On Mars, I'm just gonna vicariously.
I was gonna say you would love this situation.
I'm sure I would like it.
It's definitely a game where everyone has to be committed to playing for a while.
Said on a good day, 3 hours.
Hey, I'm in. Let's go. Get wild.
On a good day.
To play good at 2 players?
2 hours.
It plays really well at 2 players.
Of course it does.
Not played it.
Pay for the gas.
I'm sorry, Ben. No, it's horrible at 2 players.
Yes, thank you.
Please.
Sorry.
Okay. That made me feel better. Thank you.
I was gonna say, I don't know when I have any 4 hours that I can play a game anymore.
Thank you. Okay.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we would have to do it over 2 days.
Like when grandma has children? There is no time.
You have to like go on a vacation, get a hotel room,
Yes.
to play on Mars.
A hotel room's not gonna have a table big enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like you have to get a suite.
Hobby.
You get a suite
Yeah.
with a dining table
You
in
get the
it. Damn.
Airbnb. You gotta get there. You gotta...
Yep. Nelson and I have taken a vacation to play board games together.
Yeah.
I don't know if other
awesome.
people are there, but yeah, we've taken a Wednesday and or Thursday and Friday.
Write
off
that
to play
down.
That's
PTO.
awesome.
Anyone going to PAX Unplugged, you're a noob if you get an Airbnb with a small table. Look at the dining rooms.
You need to like bring your own at least.
Pro
but-
tip.
You got last.
Emily, she takes vacations from having to play board games, I think.
Well, sometimes I don't get vacations at all, so I'll take whatever.
Dalton, have you
Honestly, though,
played
like-
on Mars?
No, so we have like a running list of like, okay, next time we hang out and like we're not doing podcast stuff, like what are we gonna play? So like Zolkin was like the thing that was most recently struck from that list because that had been on there for like a really long time. So on Mars is on there, but that is one where it's like, okay, we're gonna have to like take another day, like take a PTO day or something to play on Mars. I would love it, but
Yeah, it's
commitment.
on my current 5x5 challenge, which is very challenging.
It's
but-
ambition.
Running out of time.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, hearing how heavy it is, if you have it, Roberto, I'll just borrow it, learn it, and then have you come over when it's set up.
That's not a
Just be
bad
like,
idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
we do this now. Give me the
That is not a
mechanics.
bad idea.
You have to like set it
Sold.
up during the day so that you're ready
That's
to
right.
go.
Yeah. I have the
Kate-
table that I can even put it in and set it up and then cover it and have it ready.
There you go.
Nice.
You
Awesome.
fancy.
Give me that rule book.
Yeah.
Kate was so disappointed.
I
She's
think
just
it's like
like,
47 pages.
man.
So.
I never
she set
actually-
it up, and I said I had to go after she set it up. She was not happy with me. Like we will play when I get back home, and of course it was like our first time. It was an outdoor Rotary meeting, and being right back was just not an option. So I got back later, and the game was put away, and it was a sad panda evening for her because she really wanted to play it, but I still want to play. Maybe we'll play this and the crew tomorrow. Who knows? Stay tuned. I'll keep you all.
Yeah.
I'll keep you all informed.
Very
Well-
opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah,
right.
seriously.
Right.
It's just like,
Well, they're both in space though. So
There you go.
Mm.
Perfect.
Very thematic.
for this last one, I actually intentionally left it as our last game to talk about because I feel like we've all played it,
We're all gonna hate it.
and
Yeah, no pressure.
and
Yeah.
probably, but with that, I'm just gonna have everyone guess. Before Ben, this is Ben and M's choice. I'm gonna have everyone guess as to what it is. So Jason, what do you think it is?
And we're all gonna hate it.
Yeah.
No, you're
What
not gonna
game
hate
do
it.
you
You're not gonna
hate?
hate
That
it.
was a bad hint. That was a bad hint.
You're not gonna hate it. No hints. No hints. What do you think it is?
Wingspan.
Oh,
Dave?
that's a good choice.
That's a good one. But
Viticulture.
McKay.
also a good
I
one.
like how we're all going Stonemeyer.
You're just naming
Name
Natalie's
my game.
favorite
Stonemeyer up.
games.
They're probably all just hating this. So.
About
What's-
Everdell.
Nelson.
Say Orleans, and we're right on Emily's track here.
Orleans. There we go.
Dalton.
I go Taverns of
Don't say that.
Tiefenthal.
Oh, another good one.
Professor.
They all got stolen from me. Why did I have to go?
Well, you could have had the same one. You
Over
could
a
have the
shoulder.
same
Just
one.
pick a shoulder.
Right behind
Yeah.
you, so
In a
Spirit
direction.
Island.
I'll say Jaws of the Lion for this year.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
It is Everdell.
Yes, Everdell.
All right. So I like heavy games, and Emily hates heavy games. And
I play Feast for Odin though.
that's because that's the one.
That's
you have
a-
one.
I
You
allow
say, "I
one
learned to
game."
feast for Odin," and you'll play it with me.
don't
So
have time for
what
heavy
we
games.
typically we have to find this median, right? What plays good at 2, but is typically worker placement. That seems to be your jam.
Okay.
I like decks of cards. I like Wingspans. Got that huge deck. We used to play a lot of Race for the Galaxy with like all the
Smells better
expansion
than
cards,
Wingspan,
like
huh?
this big of a deck, and it's
Mhm.
like I don't even know what I'm gonna get, and it's probably
Yeah.
gonna be crap. Terraforming Mars, right? So Everdell's this like it was new to us this year because we picked it up when all the expansions came out. I wish I could say I backed the Kickstarter. I didn't. I paid more money than I should have to get the base game and all the expansions, even the
Mhm.
new ones. And we played it for the first time this year. And where it hits for us is it's worker placement. It's got a big old deck, so you're building sort of your tableau of your city in front of you, and it's variable. I like that big deck because you're never quite sure what's going to come out.
Beautiful.
It's got the big tree, and that's the
It's
thing,
a freaking
right?
decorative piece, man. I'll never put this away.
It looks
I never
really
put mine
good.
away.
Like I really like this Andrew Bosley does the art for this game.
it's
He has a like an RPG
I'm a big fan of good
hook
art
thing
for
on
board
Kickstarter
games.
recently that was kind of cool. I like it's very cutesy, but it's like it's very detailed in a way that's fun.
Yeah.
And you think about in this game, you're building out a city, a tableau of cards, and there's partner cards in the deck. So there's the constructions and then
Critters?
critters,
Is that what they're called?
and they pair together. And I always like how in the construction you can always see the critter is in the art somewhere, like the judge is like poking his head out of the
By the time it's bedtime,
court.
like where board games get out, like I can easily be amused.
Yeah,
Let's
so-
be serious.
Right, like-
After 3 children all day, it's like, look at this little guy on the card.
If it was up
Let's
to
be
me,
serious
He thinks he's so
here.
sneaky.
right? We
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, have you seen him?
like if it's up to me, our shelf is nothing but Vital Lacerda games. It's Brass Birmingham. Like I tried to play Clinic this year. Emily was quit after the first one. She was like, "This is insane. Are you crazy?" And I went and played that with some friends.
true.
We had a good time. And so Everdell's like this thing where I feel like I'm trying to build a tableau. I'm trying to be clever. I'm looking for certain cards. I'm doing worker placement. It's light enough that we don't really have to read the rule book again to remember the rules. We can just pull it out and play it. But also, like I like how you have to combo things, and it looks fantastic. And in the end, it's like we always have fun.
Yeah, it's
Playing it.
fun either way. But there's so many cards and so many action spaces and whatnot that come out that it's always different. It's not the same game. It's not like whoever gets to this is always going to get the first 10 points kind of thing. It's who knows what we're going to get and how you're going to play, especially since we have the 3 expansions. So you can like switch it up with that too.
And it's decently tight, even at 2, because there's like not that many worker placement spots for the resources. There's
Yeah.
one pebble spot, and unless there's a forest action, which are these kind of random each time you play for a pebble, you're kind of like stuck. Like if the other person takes it, what are you
That's
going to do? So it can still be kind of like mean and hard a little bit. You can kind of like you're still playing against each other.
But I can still sing Mariah Carey while we're playing. And,
Yeah, right.
like
it's light enough.
Mhm.
It's
The
light
important
enough that
thing.
it's a date.
exactly.
And that's the thing, it's light
I've
enough
never
that it's still
resonated
date
more.
night.
And I think
Oh,
too with Everdell, it's pretty enough that I don't mind if I lose. Like even
yeah.
if I get all my critters out, even if I do lose, I still feel like it was fun. Whereas some games, if I lose, I'm like, I should have done this, I should have done that. Ugh, I played this wrong. Whereas with
Mhm.
Everdell, it's worth it either way.
You still got to handle the little berries. Like that's
The
the
swishy
Yeah.
berries, the
Yes.
shiny pearls.
Exactly.
They did such a good job of the components, which I don't know why more like designers why they don't do this more often, but like the shininess of the pebbles
Mhm.
with the
Mhm.
mat of the wood, the actual like they're made out of wood, like I don't know, everything in Everdell, which I haven't opened up Spirecrest or Pearlbrook, but I have.
Spirecrest is where it's at, man. Spirecrest.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
agree.
I agree.
So this
Mhm.
is evidence of my collector nature. These are all the collector editions, and yeah, I'm a completionist, and this is one that I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten these expansions to the table because there have been so many others. But yeah, phenomenal game. It was.
I would say I would not play without Spirecrest ever after having played
I
with
like
it.
that one the most.
Because
Yeah.
there's a thing where you run out of actions you can do, right? And so you have to change seasons, and typically that's just I get some more workers, maybe my green cards produce. Spirecrest, the entire expansion is you do stuff during that when you pass into the next season.
In between.
It gives you you just do a couple of little things, and it balances in a weird way. You'll get some card that gives you some advantage, and so to balance that out, in each season there's weather that's a negative.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what they do. the negatives of the weather, I understand they have to be there, but like when you have it, like such a pain. It's like, oh, it's one extra resource to build a construction or
whatever. But
it's like, I don't like that. But even that's cute. You know, like it's windy.
it's cute because it's like
and
a
the
squirrel.
guy, it's like
blowing
a little
away.
guy. It's like losing all his
I mean,
papers.
Yeah.
yeah,
His robes are like fluttering in the wind.
Yeah.
exactly. You can't get mad at that. Like,
Yeah.
So
I think Spirecrest makes Everdell shine. I know we had the conversation about the expansions earlier, maybe before this. But Spirecrest, when I first played Everdell, I thought this game is good. I do like this game. I thought I wasn't getting enough resources, and then by the last season, I'm like, I have an abundance, and I have all these cards in my hand, and I don't know which one to put in my personal tableau. Like, how should I work this out? But adding Spirecrest to it and having that hindrance just made it that much more challenging, which made it a lot more replayable for me, because you lose a crit or you lose one of your workers. You might everything is a hindrance. It's great for me. I like it a lot. And actually, Jason, have you played it?
Oh, I'm gonna dissent a little bit. What how many people did you play at for all you guys? Like 2, 3, 4?
I would say 2 and 3.
I was
2 and 3.
It was
but usually
2 to 4 for me.
Okay, is like 2 and 3 better than 4? Do you think?
It's faster.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
think it's about the same, personally.
So our board game group, we got Everdell when it first came out, because it's a gorgeous looking game, and there's no doubt about that. And we played it the first time, and our entire group just went, I don't know. There was just something off that we didn't like. So we're like, all right, maybe we just don't know the rules well enough or whatever. So we tried again. We played it 3 times in a row, and it just was one of those games that never clicked for us. And for me, a part of the problem was I haven't played in almost 2 years now, but the starting hand that you get, I thought was very random, because there's just such a thick deck of cards that if someone gets good cards in the beginning and you don't, it's the same problem with Wingspan that I have. If somebody gets good cards in the beginning and you don't, it's just tough to come back. I am not a good, the reason I play solo is because I'm the best person when I play myself, because I'm bad with everyone else. And my buddy is good at board games. And I mean, he just would build his engine fast, or his tableau faster than anyone else to the table at 4. So it was a runaway win every single time. And no matter how much we'd all try to like figure out a different way to beat him, we just couldn't do it. And I don't know, that's more or less, he was just a better board game player than the rest of us. But I feel like every other game we have a chance if we focus on different strategies, just not Everdell. And I
do agree, Jason.
With
and I'm
Everdell,
sorry, Dave, but I've had the same thing happen where I've had a couple times happen where it was like a dud. And especially the husband and the wife. If you are ever holding out for that, the other one is not going to come. If you think they're coming, they're not coming.
No, that's what I was going to say. It's basically, once you're committed to a strategy, you're kind of dependent on that series of cards coming out. And if it happens, like woohoo, but and there are ways to mitigate. Like you can like do the trade in for the cards, and there's a few cards that let you mill cards, and you can get cards faster, but you kind of waste actions to do that. And if you just happen to be at the table and get the cards you need, then it can really swing. Now, that having been said, I still really enjoy playing it. It's got a great solo mode too, but
that's what I hear. Yeah.
One of the few kind of knocks to it that I would say is you are really dependent on what cards come out.
Yeah. Made by Mr. Dave right here. We have some resource trays.
I know, those look beautiful.
I love them. We use them all the time.
I 100% agree. Like
I totally
when
agree
we're looking at our games for 2020, and we talked about this beforehand, like new to us this year, right? This is probably the best game we played this year. That's always fun at 2 players, but you can definitely get like kind of screwed out on what you draw. Like you can have a bad game
we played was like that, where I didn't have any matches, and you had the like critter for every construction. I was like, I don't understand how you're playing this game.
That is critical.
So
critical
I mean,
to get some of the auctioning happening. Not you just spend so much time building stuff.
Yeah,
because it's extra actions and it's free. It's extra free actions just based on a random draw. Yeah. And that can happen. And criticism of Wingspan, very similar, right? Like,
if you don't get the right connections.
At least there, You know, like in a Wingspan, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to get. Every card's different. Who knows what's going to happen this time?
Right.
Maybe I get good draws. Maybe I get bad draws. Everdell, a lot of times I get cards and I'm like, okay, well, where's the partner to this?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's
Yeah.
only so many partners in the deck. It's a very big deck, but there's lots of repeats of cards. I think there's maybe like 20 or so pairs. I don't know what the number
Something
is,
like that.
but the deck is, I don't know how many cards, but so it repeats over and over again, but you still might never get it.
I think
Yeah.
only because we mainly play 2-player, especially during 2020.
Easy to pull out.
It's easy to pull up, but also I kind of like that. Like, let's see how good we can actually get then for the score, because sometimes, we're gonna have that total dud.
Yeah, a lot of times you're
Um,
playing against your past self. Can I
yeah.
beat my previous
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
previous
Yeah.
best score? I do think the expansions help, though. We at least at 2. I don't think we had to play with Pearlbrook.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
not
like
really
I don't
a
need
fan of that
the
one.
front. Yeah,
The
Yeah.
pearls are beautiful.
the
They
pearls are
Yeah.
fantastic.
Pearls are real nice.
That's
That's
yeah.
it.
But it's
But I
weird that it
didn't need, like,
replaces 3 and 4 point basic events
Yeah.
with like 15 and 20 point wonders that aren't that much more expensive. It's
And
very
there was
bizarre.
one game we played that I swung well and had a ton of pearls and it did great and I got those. But it happened once, you know.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the
Get those
curse of
pearls
deck
going.
builders, because Ascension
Yeah.
recently I played again and the same thing happened where it just like wasn't shuffled well and just
Yeah.
wasn't fun.
Yeah,
But if you
definitely
shuffle it well,
depends.
it's a perfect game.
So I got a question. We have actually started playing Wingspan where we draft our initial 5 cards.
That's how you gotta do it.
Ooh.
And
Yeah.
that's
Interesting.
significantly better.
Ooh.
And I'm wondering if Everdell, because I'm with you, Jason.
Yeah.
I played Everdell
On my
3
note
times
sheet.
Definitely
and
could.
traded it. I didn't
Yeah.
I couldn't get into it, but maybe that would have fixed it. And you could, you know, if you have the husband, you can draft the wife coming around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You're absolutely
Or
right, though.
locations with their critters. any
Yeah,
of that.
exactly.
Like,
Just to have something to start. Because if you have nothing to start
I
and
wrote
you're
that
screwed
down.
right away, it's like, well, why are we going to continue in some cases?
Right.
Mm.
you know, and it is group dependent. You know, Emily and I are competitive with each other, but we typically play pretty casually. Like I'm not going to pull Everdell out with the guys I play Brass and Clinic with. It wouldn't make any sense. You know, so for us it works great. Oh, hey, we got an hour tonight. Let's play this game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It falls into the well, Viticulture at 2 players is pretty quick, but I would consider that a much better game. But it falls into that like, hey, this is fun, this is cute, we remember how to play it.
Mhm.
You know, let's
Still a
pull it
little
out.
competitive, but yeah.
I think
Very happy.
for me, the only other thing that hurt too was just the hype behind it. I mean, the hype behind Everdell, that this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's not the game's fault. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
people buying into the hype.
No,
And
you're yep.
There's so many games like that. So
And I think we were on the tail end of that,
We were on the
actually,
other
where
end.
there was the hype, and then there was the, hey,
Probably
doesn't live up to the hype.
Because
and
of the hype, yeah.
I picked it up, and we were like, this isn't as bad as everybody
I was
says
like,
it
it's
is.
not
This
that
is kinda
bad.
fun.
So, which could be part of it. But yeah, I just
No,
kept
yeah.
being like, no, it's totally not worth it. And then we finally played, and I'm like, I don't know, I kind of like it. Like, what's the problem?
Right. I'm just looking around, like at our other, like, what are the games we regularly pull off the shelf? Has it got up there?
So Ben, it's kind of
Definitely.
funny you mentioned Viticulture because at 2019 Gen Con, I was debating between either getting Everdell or Viticulture, and I ended up
Viticulture.
getting Everdell, and I traded it for Viticulture.
Yeah,
So
I
it worked
would
out.
think that. I mean, both good, but yes, I would.
well, did you get Tuscany for Viticulture?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say you
Games
have
improved
to.
by the expansion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No
Mhm.
kidding.
Yeah.
I would not play base
Meyer.
Viticulture.
I
And
have
that
not
was
played
the
base
having that was
Viticulture.
night and day.
I'm
I
sorry.
thought
what?
I had, and then you're like, no, you actually haven't. You have only played the Tuscany. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Going from base Viticulture to that the essential edition, or I'm sorry, the Tuscany. That's night and day. Like it's a
Yes.
completely different game.
Oh yeah.
Completely
Oh,
different
yeah.
game.
It literally changes. Yeah.
Dalton, did you play Everdell? Do you have any thoughts on the matter?
No, so Nelson has betrayed me twice in my life, and the first was when he got married, and then the second was when he traded Everdell before I got to play it.
I do apologize.
So no, but I've considered it because mostly because of the theme, that I think it would work really well for again, like that pie slice between like my heavy board game friend in Nelson, and then people that are less so, especially my family, but also in my girlfriend, who I think Everdell would hit right for them because of
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think so.
It has
It's like a
treat, and
light
it's
light
like-
casual gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also kicking. It's not quite maybe a gateway game, but it is kicking you into a higher level of thinking and
Right, yeah.
introducing tableau building and some other
Mhm.
important mechanics.
A lot of mechanics.
Bane,
Yeah,
are,
for sure.
are any of you looking at that Creature Comforts Kickstarter? Because it's kind of got the the Everdell feel, but it's even slightly lighter. So if you want like that kind of gateway game that has that feel,
Interesting. I'll
Check
check
it
that
out.
out.
Yeah, because I do think, if you took Everdell, which is great looking and kind of accessible, I think the problem with playing with like really new people, let's say, is that you can get in a situation where like, heck, I'm still in summer. I got like 10 more actions to do, and you're
Yeah.
like in fall already.
Yeah, it would be.
What are you doing?
It
Yeah,
depends on person.
like a lot of times I'll pull Century Spice Road off the shelf for that, and I'll be like, hey, I'm being real clever here, like,
Mhm.
and they're like beating me because I just picked up too many
Yeah,
cards.
Splendor. Like I lose all
Yeah.
the time to first players in Splendor. I'm like, I'm obviously thinking about this too much.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. I think Everdell, if you thought hard enough about it, you probably would win.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because
it's
you'd
worth
build
it.
your city out. It would be much stronger than the other players. You could have a good engine.
Yeah.
But that's where it's good for like us. Like we want a casual game that's light enough to just pull out on a weeknight. And
Yeah.
that's where it hits, right? That's what it's good for. It's not the weekend heavy gamer night. But it's like, man, I want to play something, but I don't want to think too hard. But I kind of want to think hard, and I want to beat you.
I want my win to matter a little.
Yeah,
exactly.
right. Right.
Fantastic. Yeah, how do I want to beat M tonight? That's really in Ben's
I
mind.
ask.
Mhm.
I just found out the other day she likes co-op games. I was like, man, you should have told me that a long time ago before I bought 0 co-op games.
My
I Spirit
semester-
Island. My
Co-op
semester
games are good for
is
me.
Sound like a
Island.
throwing out thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
On Mars has a co-op version, right? Right? I'm
I
pretty
think
sure,
it's
right?
coming out. It's an
It's coming out.
expansion that they're doing. Yeah.
I completely made that up. I was just.
Oh, yeah, no,
that's
Here
news to
we
me.
go.
That's awesome. There's,
No,
I'm
it's an
just on
expansion. They're
Ben's
doing a
sides
co-op
for
expansion,
Ben to get it.
Yeah, Terraforming Mars is a co-op game.
I highly recommend My Mystics. I think you guys would really like it. It's cute.
Dude,
Your
There's
little
so
mice,
much
and you're
awesome.
going through, and you're like fighting.
On
We
top of
got that
Stuffed
for our
Fables
kids a
is
while ago.
all the Mice and Mystics and expansions that I bought to play with the kids, and it's
You're still
just
waiting.
sitting there.
2020, 2021. Wow.
Yeah,
I was gonna say goals, but
Some of it's partially painted around here somewhere.
right?
Oh, this is
You
just
have-
Stuffed Fables. So like
Yeah,
a
it's
little
stuff
elephant guy.
fables. It's not. Maybe it is, but who knows where?
McKay,
more.
any thoughts on Everdell before we wrap?
I think it's great. I have the same feel, which I go back and forth on Everdell and Terraforming Mars. Every time I play, I'm like, I feel like I played a good game, but I lost miserably, and I don't know how that happens. I think it's just a type of game that everyone's playing their own thing, and it just worked out better for someone. And I think there's something to that. Like, there's something about a game where you have to make the best of what you got, and you just have to be okay with that. Like, sometimes you got dealt bad cards, and it's just fine with that. I do think I will start drafting every time I play it now. That is a fantastic idea.
That is a great idea.
But
I think if you draft in
overall-
Terraforming Mars, though, you got to be careful because, like, if you lose now, you earned the loss.
Yeah, now it counts.
oh wait, in Terraforming Mars though, don't you get 10 and then you get to pick 4?
In your starting hand.
Yeah,
Well, you
so
can
So
you
you
can take all
kind of-
10 if you want.
Yeah, you can take all 10 if you want. Yeah, but then
No,
yeah,
But
Then
then
yeah,
the
you
next
get something.
rounds.
not like that.
that you have to just throw out here because it was the game that was second on my list that I thought somebody else would pick it. But Quacks of Quedlinburg was my number 2 for this year. Great game. I just love it.
My
Only push
cousin
your luck
left
I've
it
ever
at my
liked.
house. My cousin left the game at my house, and I'm very happy about that.
We spread further apart. Here's how we feel about Quacks of Quedlinburg. I like it.
Light and easy and
I don't
fun.
mind it. I just find it too much of like, hey, it's like dice rolling. It's too much random draw.
We
You
haven't
have to
played-
be
yeah, but
okay
you
with
built
not
the
winning.
bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I understand.
That's on
but
you.
I still.
That's on you.
I
That's
feel
on
like-
your bag.
I feel like I've won more than you, so you can't even say anything there.
Sorry, I opened up a whole bag of worms on this one.
Yeah, right.
No, I I don't mind that game, but if I'm gonna if we're gonna get one out, I'd probably choose a different one. I just
bad.
like
Play
having a
taverns.
little more control
Taverns.
over.
Yeah, play taverns.
All
Taverns
right,
and taverns.
Taverns.
Taverns is great. Yeah.
I like
Taverns
taverns
is great.
better
I can
than
see it.
quacks, and
I
it
love
has that same-ish kind of feel. It's a little bit of push your luck. It's Wolfgang Varsh, so fantastic game.
I'll play that next.
Love it.
Awesome.
Deck building and worker placement or dice placement.
Well, my friends, thank you for assembling for this phenomenal Boardvengers discussion.
Thanks for putting us together.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course. We'll absolutely do this again. This was great.
Awesome.
But until our next, Zoom meeting, thank God for internet togetherness.
Yep.
Happy gaming.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Happy
Cheers.
gaming.
And-
Cheers.
That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Nice to meet
That was
you.
awesome.
Yeah, that
Like
was
I
a
just
blast.
talked to
Fun.
friends.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Good time.
So we have Gaia Project. I've yet to play that too. This year it's more like I forget who said it, but there's a difference between board game playing and board game collecting. Let's have a discussion about that because you can really have either or. And right now I'm more on board
Who are
game.
you calling out right
I'm
now?
about to say, do you feel
My-
personally attacked,
myself.
Meg?
Jeez.